They say the Navy trains you for anything combat, crisis, facing the unknown, but I promise you, nobody preps you for staring down a loaded pistol in your own backyard, not when it's pointed at your wife and the air's so thick you could choke on it. I still hear it sometimes, that poisonous sneer. Is that it, Commander? Like Arthur Vance thought, saying her rank was some kind of curse. That was my neighbor, a man who thought being HOA president made him king. But in that moment, with two stunned cops frozen at the edge of the grass and my wife Kate kneeling perfectly still, the whole world felt like it was tilting about to slide right off its axis. Now, I'll tell you, nobody expects a backyard landscaping dispute to end with a standoff, much less one involving a sidearm and a man so wound up with self-importance he could snap. 6 months earlier, we moved to Seaview Bluffs for peace. After years of deployments and moving boxes, we wanted roots, something steady. I was a freelance journalist. Kate had taken a shore roll nearby, and we thought we'd found the sort of place where neighbors smile and argue about crabgrass, not gun barrels. That fantasy lasted all of a month. It started so small, you wouldn't believe it. A fence post, a couple letters. Vance grinning at our title report like it was a Sudoku he'd solve with pure charm. He and his wife Eleonora brought a bottle of wine that first week, played the part of welcome wagon. But it was always the questions about Kate's work, the extra glance at our bluff, the not-so-subtle reminders about community harmony and old bylaws. Then came the first warning letter: no fire pits, no chairs, no permanent structures, just neighborly code for, we own this land, not you. You know what I mean? It's that slow squeeze, the kind that doesn't seem like a fight until you're backed into a corner. Suddenly the waves from neighbors stopped. Little things got weird, anonymous notes under our windshield, a security camera pointed at our yard gossip at the mailbox. Vance had a script and everyone else just played along, or so I thought. But Kate, she never blinked. She'd been through worse, seen worse hell. She'd led people through nightmares with less fuss. Her calm wasn't fake, it was a weapon. And when Vance finally snapped and showed up waving a gun, barking about disrespect and property lines, it was like she'd been waiting for him to finally reveal himself. Let me back up a sec. By the time Vance was screaming that he ran this neighborhood, Kate was kneeling steadier than I've ever seen a human being, and I could barely breathe. Every cell in me was screaming to move to shield her, but the muzzle was on her, and I was rooted in place. The officers, Davies and Miller, were just as paralyzed. That gun didn't just threaten Kate, it was an assault on everything we'd built together, the life we'd fought for. And Vance's veins, pulsing, spit flying, was so far gone in his rage that he'd forgotten there were witnesses. But Kate's eyes weren't on the weapon. She was reading Vance, taking him apart, searching for the opening, and then she used the only thing sharper than his threats, her voice. "Liam, get the briefcase, the blue one." She didn't shout, didn't flinch, just spoke in that voice I'd learned to trust through every storm and sleepless night. I obeyed. I had to. I moved hard in my throat back into our house. God, it felt so normal inside, coffee still in the air. Her book on the chair grabbed the hard blue case from the closet, feeling the weight of a world I'd never been allowed into. When I stepped outside again, everything had changed. The officers and neighbors were still statues, but Kate, she'd already shifted the ground beneath Vance's feet. Vance sneered at the briefcase, called us corrupt, but Kate ignored him, locked onto Officer Davies, and just like that flipped the script. She asked about legal standing, nonprofit status. Who exactly was the complainant here? Davies floundered. Miller, young and impressionable, got ordered to check the state registry right then in front of everyone. In the lull, Kate popped the latches on that case, click, click, like a pistol cocking. Inside was no legal file, no evidence, just her perfectly pressed navy dress jacket, the gold oak leaf and campaign ribbons glinting in the sun. She stood up, slid on the uniform, and suddenly it wasn't my wife on the lawn. It was Commander Reed, and the air shifted so fast you could feel everyone's breath catch. Even Vance was thrown off his bluster, crumbling. The officers snapped to attention by reflex, especially Davies, who'd probably never met a real federal officer on his beat before, and Miller returned from the car, looking like he'd seen a ghost. No HOA corporation existed, not on any official record. Kate laid it out. Her voice full of cold steel. Vance wasn't just trespassing or harassing. He'd crossed into federal felonies, aggravated assault, impersonating an entity, pointing a weapon at a federal officer. And right then, like she'd scheduled it, a pair of black sedans rolled up. Real agents, not small-town cops, got out and moved like wolves, eyes everywhere, no wasted words. The lead one, Martinez, addressed her by rank, asked if the situation was contained. Vance dropped the gun like it was burning him. You could feel the whole neighborhood pivot. The balance of power shifted for good. Eleanora Vance's wife was led out, too cold, furious, but silent. The federal agents did their job with a quiet efficiency that made the whole local drama look like amateur hour. The neighbors just stared, finally seeing the real stakes. I caught Kate reassuring Officer Miller, told him he'd done the right thing, following facts, keeping things calm. It was almost tender the way she handed him back his confidence. Later, sitting together, the full story unfolded. Vance wasn't just a bitter ex-Navy washout. He'd been running a an anti-military campaign targeting families like ours to drive them out, then scooping up properties for shady shell corporations. The HOA was a front. Kate had spotted the signs early and built a case while I was still thinking this was just a turf war over lawn chairs. The community, shamed and stunned, held a meeting at the library. Neighbors apologized, confessed their roles. One lady broke down about writing those hateful notes. Even the folks who'd backed Vance admitted they were just scared of becoming his next target. A retired lawyer stepped up, proposed a real HOA with checks and balances. For once, the vote was unanimous. Someone tried to nominate Kate as president, got a standing ovation, but she turned it down with grace, said the neighborhood needed strong neighbors, not another strong man. The old bluff source of all the trouble was finally named on the map, the Reed Carter Overlook. I can't describe the feeling standing there 6 months later as the town threw its first Unity Day barbecue, smoke in the air, kids laughing where a crime scene once played out. Kate, out of uniform, teaching teens about awareness, not violence, how to hold themselves, how to use their voices. That evening, as the sun set over our new sign and the Pacific turned gold, I asked if she regretted revealing everything, trading privacy for peace. She looked at me, then at the sign, a community protected by truth and unity, and said, "Some secrets are shields, but sometimes the only way to protect your family is to let the truth be your sword." She squeezed my hand, and I really knew what it meant to have each other's backs. Kids ran past, shouting our names, their laughter rising in the dusk. That's the sound of victory. Not the handcuffs or the agents, but the peace that follows. When a community finally wakes up, learns who its real protectors are, and decides never again to look away. We never built the fence Vance threatened us over. Turns out we didn't need it. Sometimes all it takes to make a neighborhood safe is one person brave enough to say, "Not today." Now I'm curious, what would you have done? Where do you draw your lines when the people next door turn out to be the real enemy? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about justice, community, and where you'd stand if it was your backyard on the line.